Hello, and welcome back to the Conscious Contact podcast. My name is Genay Peavey, and it might look a little different around here right now. So, no worries. If you're looking for Sue, you can go ahead and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and type in sustainable productivity, and that'll pull hers up. She's over there making awesome content. And over here, we are going to shift back to the kind of content that I was originally making on this channel. So, having real conversations with guests. Some of these videos might be solo and just me talking about whatever floats into my head, any kind of stream of consciousness thought that comes in there. But I kind of just wanted to get that kind of big shift in awareness and shift in cameras for solo episodes out of the way so that you kind of know what to expect. So this is me just by myself. I've already recorded a ton of awesome episodes with really great guests, some of which you'll recognize, but most of them you've never heard from before on this podcast. So super stoked for those episodes to go up. The previous episode that just went up, that'll be the last one with Susan as the co-host. I may have a co-host again, I may not, but for sure I am going to be having lots more conversations. And I wanted to start that off a little bit with everyone listening. What do you want to hear me talk about? What topics have I not touched on that you want to hear someone speak on? Just from personal experience, or what guests do you want me to have on who you think would be an interesting fit? Someone that I either agree or hopefully don't agree with so that we can gain more perspective through those differences. Or is that not something you want to see at all? I truly want to know what you all want to hear because that's also important. I'll still be doing my own thing. It is my podcast, but I want to know what you want. So definitely let me know in the comments or over on Instagram at Conscious Contact Podcast and tell me what you want to see. I try to put polls up there every now and then so I can kind of gauge what everyone is wanting to listen to. I don't get a ton of responses, so if that's you, if you've seen it and clicked by and haven't told me what you want to hear, I'm not psychic. So I need you to tell me, please. Tell me what you want to hear. But yeah, tonight, and I am recording at night. The lights are false. They are artificial lighting. But I kind of wanted to talk about my own recovery. And what I mean specifically by that is not my recovery story, because I've already touched on that in another episode really early on in the podcast. But the fact that my recovery is my own and I'm not going to force that on anyone else. I'm not going to judge anyone else for their particular version of recovery because it is personal to whoever's going through it. So for me specifically, if you don't know, if you've never seen me before, hi, I'm Genay. I'm an alcoholic. I am in long-term recovery and I have had some really interesting conversations with people recently. And it's a myriad of different topics. So the first one that really comes to mind is on social media, I've seen some ladies in recovery that drink non-alcoholic spirits. So whether that's beer or non-alcoholic like elixirs or mixed drinks. And one lady in particular kind of didn't put up a rant. It was definitely not that aggressive. But she was talking about how she got a lot of hate comments for speaking about the fact that she did actually drink those non-alcoholic beverages, and that's her choice to make. Completely valid. It is her choice to make. And my own personal recovery, that's not something that I am willing to risk, but I don't care what anyone else does. This is an overarching theme. I do not care what anyone else does, the choices that they make in their life, unless those choices start to affect me or somebody that I care about, or the laws that are governing me wherever I happen to be living at the time. If none of those apply, you do whatever you want. I do not care. And we kind of got into it on the nice versus kind episode, talking about the very tiny crossover in that, which is sponsorship. So if you don't know anything about recovery, or if you're not in recovery, that is a rabbit hole I'll let you go down on your own as to what a sponsor is or what it entails. And again, what it entails is different to each person that's going through recovery that is sponsoring someone. But sponsorship as a whole, as I understand it, is giving another person going through recovery and working the steps of whatever 12-step program that you are in, you're walking them through the steps in the same way that you did the steps yourself. That keeps me away from giving advice. It keeps me away from trying to make the program more complicated than it is, because it's already been done. It's already been written. I don't need to change it. And I can give my actual experience, how I actually felt, what I actually did to get to the place where alcohol is not something that I think about anymore. So, in that particular situation, that is the only time that I am going to not even tell, but offer up to someone else, hey, I hear that you're struggling. Here's what I did. If you don't like the way you feel, maybe try what I did, because that's what helped me feel better. That's the only time that I really feel giving my opinion on something makes a difference at all. So, this podcast is purely for fun and has nothing to do with anything. I hope everyone knows that. I think that our conversations have kind of made that clear. But if not, this is not a how-to podcast. This is not a 12 easy steps to make your life better podcast, because it would be far more than 12 steps, first off, and it wouldn't be easy. But this is genuine. I just want to talk. I just want to have conversation. And I'm going to offer up my own opinion on things. So when I say I'm offering up my own opinion, I'm not saying you have to have the same opinion. I'm not saying you have to do what I did, because I'm not your sponsor. Well, I might be. I don't know, some of you might be watching, but in this context, I don't care what you do. Anything that I say is legitimately just going to be what choices I've made for my own life. And I hope that you don't judge your own choices based off of that. I hope you're judging your own choices off of, intense thought, quiet time, intentionality of you making sure that your choices line up with your morals, ethics, values that you have chosen for yourself. This is just me saying whatever I feel based on my own experience. So, long story short, getting back to the point here, she was talking about how people were really rude to her about that. And I can understand a comment that would caution someone on social media about recommending that without bringing in that caveat of everything I just said, that is that person's personal choice. This might not be for everyone that's in recovery, yada, 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 general disclaimers. You would hope people would make choices for themselves based on what's best for them, but on social media, it's kind of like the warnings on the back of a lighter. You gotta put it a little bit more in the forefront, in my experience, or people are just gonna take it wrong. They just are. And I think that's where a lot of her comments came from, is people seeing that she had a decent following, and maybe on the base level, they were worried about someone super new in recovery thinking that that's okay with them without actually having any experience to tell them if it is good or bad for them. But what I heard when she wrote that, or what I see, is someone acting out of fear. So I have almost hit send on quite a few, not mean or rude or anonymous messages, but cautionary messages in the thought process of, oh, well, she's not taking this particular person, i.e. me, their perspective into consideration when she's posting this. And she shouldn't have to. Again, this is her own choice for her own life. Just because it's not my choice doesn't mean I need to push that on her. If she asks me for my opinion, that's a different story. And I think that applies to everything on this podcast that we talk about. If I'm asked my opinion, then sure, yeah, I'll share it and I'll say this is what works for me. But if I decide to take that step and press post on a maybe got my feathers ruffled that she's drinking non-alcoholic beer and I don't, that would be based in fear that I'm going to get judged for my choices. And if I'm making the choices based on the right things, I shouldn't have to worry about being judged for them. I should know that I can stand firm in those choices, in my thoughts and opinions and actions, because I've questioned them at some point. I've had someone hold up a mirror to it or give me an opposite point of view and been able to grow and say, yes, okay, I do believe that, or no, maybe I did change my mind on some stuff. And the next episode that you'll see is a big one about it being okay to change your mind. Like, you can change your opinion on things if you learn something new or you grow as a person or your life circumstances change or you're in a different place. You're allowed to say, you know what? I was really, really adherent to this particular thought style, and that's just not how I believe anymore. And I know that takes a lot of just putting your pride aside from personal experience. Again, you'll see that in the next week's video. But I think we can get wrapped up in assuming that everyone needs to believe like we believe. And I don't know where that, I mean, I guess I do know where it came into play, but just social media in general, it's this homogenous, the appearance of a homogenous society where anyone that doesn't believe this, the most broadly accepted like social narrative of the time, they become the outsiders. They become looked down upon. They become shunned in a way because their particular thought process doesn't fit the mainstream narrative. And I'm not talking about broad right and wrong. And again, I hope I don't have to make that disclaimer on every video, but if you've never seen me before, I'm not talking about someone that believes murder is okay and someone that doesn't. Like, I'm not talking about the true basis, the basic, societal structure of right and wrong and what that means, legal, illegal, yada, yada, yada. I am talking about things that are in the social narrative or particular things that are trending at the time. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. And I don't know why that's such a controversial idea. I'm not saying that everyone's allowed to have their own reality. Not everyone is allowed to have their own version of the truth. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You can believe whatever you want to believe. That doesn't mean that the truth is going to change just because you believe something that isn't the truth. You're allowed to believe that with all of your heart, and I'm going to respect you. But I'm not going to change my base level knowledge of what is fact or what is true, even if it's only true for me and my reality. That doesn't have to fit together. We are allowed to disagree and have different opinions. And that doesn't mean that one of us is wrong necessarily. Again, like excluding major like murder, abuse, that kind of stuff. So I wonder if any of you have kind of felt that recently. I don't know if anyone, I know the people that I've been speaking to on this podcast and in real life definitely have paused to think about that and how we got to this point where we can't hold conversations with people that disagree with us. And we tend to get into this place. And this is not, again, like this is very small portions of the population as a whole. If I'm only going off the data that I've collected, talking to friends and family, it seems much larger in the social narrative. This, two sides pitted against each other, whatever particular thing you're talking about, not just politics. But in the real world, most people are pretty gray. Most people don't want to get in a screaming match about a particular subject. Most people can respect someone else's opinion on an issue and not let that completely ruin their view of another human as human. I think we tend to see in social media that people aren't treating each other humanely when they're getting in fights like that. When you have two people that disagree and they're in a screaming match, one, I don't think you can see any progress that way, at least, again, not in my experience. And I don't know who that's helping. It's not helping either side. I think it makes everyone look foolish. And being able to converse with another human is kind of a lost art. And I'm not going to blame anything in particular. I think that, the ease of emojis replacing like actually having to articulate what you want to say is kind of, it's an easier route. It is easier than having to pick the words to convey that you are the blushing cheeks emoji or the sending hearts, and it's much easier to just put an emoji than have to make a sentence to put a sentence together sometimes. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in the grand scheme of it, but I do wonder if it's making us less adept at having real conversations with people. And I don't want to lose that. I really don't want to lose my ability to to speak semi-intelligently to someone else. And that is the main reason I started this podcast. Right at the tail end of lockdown for COVID, everyone was getting out again, and I missed my friends. I missed having in-person conversations with people, and it was making me a little depressed. And I know a lot of you listening probably, went through something similar, and I just really wanted to talk to people again. And I thought, hey, a podcasts are cool. People would probably agree to come over to be on a podcast, even though, no one's watching or listening most of the time. It was just a way to reconnect, because I really did start to lose my ability to speak with others. And as someone, I would say that I still definitely have anxiety. It's worlds better than it used to be, but I am really high functioning in that regard now. But I did feel myself slipping back into just not full on panic attacks in social situations, but my brain just started to shut off again. I'm out of practice interacting with other humans. I can lose that skill. I definitely can. And I've seen some other people lose it too. And I I I don't know the way back from that. I'm here trying to make the small footsteps towards reversing that I can here by making I say make. I'm definitely not like kidnapping anyone and bringing them here, but trying to get people over here to just talk. And sometimes that's going to be awkward, and it's going to take a second before we get into it. Sometimes it's going to be like riding a bike, cuz I might know them better, or I've got a particular topic that I know I want to talk about. But I hope that you guys are excited for that too. I know that this podcast doesn't have a super, like, I haven't pigeonholed myself into one particular thing that I always talk about. Like, this isn't a homesteading channel. This isn't necessarily just a recovery channel. This isn't social events and pop culture. Definitely not that. But I hope that that doesn't deter you. I hope that you like listening to the myriad of things that I get into, my ramblings, because this episode is definitely a huge ramble. I hope that you could follow what I was saying. It is definitely late. I think it's like 8 p.m. That's late for me. Okay. If you don't already know, I'm an 80-year-old woman on the inside. And yeah, I'm so excited that you're here, that you're coming along for this ride. There's awesome stuff in store. This background that you may have gotten accustomed to if you're watching on YouTube. If you can only hear me right now, please go check out the YouTube videos. It's something that have really become interested in and taught myself how to edit video. Not well, so don't expect much, but it's been really fun. And again, like, just having a new area to grow in has been really nice, coming out of a long period of time where we were all kind of just watching Tiger King on Netflix and ordering our groceries. It's allowed me to kind of stretch my mental muscles and learn a new skill and become, semi proficient. Like, I can actually do it. And I didn't think I could. Definitely talked down to myself for a while about it, but I'm getting there, and it's fun. It really is. So we are at Conscious Contact Podcast on YouTube, same on social media. So if you want to see what changes might be happening with the background, with the guests that we're gonna have on, come find out. Come follow along. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow on social media, because I'll definitely be posting there first as I'm setting up new backgrounds. Huge hints I keep dropping here about backgrounds, and I'm excited for something new. Again, I like to remain teachable, and I know this is going to be a fun transition into something different again. I already miss Sue. Her spot looks extra lonely right now, but she's doing big things, and I know that she's going to continue to grow just like this is. So follow both of us. And yeah, I appreciate you watching or listening or both. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.